Fast fact. Early Romans used salt as a form of money. In fact, the word salary comes from sal, which means salt in Latin. I'm Drew Thomas, and you're listening to Bank Chats. There we go. So today we are going to discuss something interesting. We're a financial podcast, obviously, right?
We are.
And so we're going to discuss what currency actually is, right? And naturally, thinking about what currency actually is made me think of my high school English teacher. And I'm sure it did for you too.
Maybe we'll see where this is going.
So
how did it for you?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this because the conversation we're going to have today could be interpreted by people to mean that we're trying to endorse one thing or another. And we have a standing policy on the podcast, and we have a disclaimer that is in the description that we put at the end of every podcast that basically says, listen, this is an educational podcast. It is not we're not trying to tell you what to do, right?
It's not advice, right?
It is not advice. It is just information that you can use, right? And it is one source of information, which made me think of my English teacher, because my English teacher in high school was one of the first people to say, you have to have multiple sources of information for your research papers. You can't just, pick one and then, present it as truth. Right. So I'm encouraging people today to think of this podcast, and particularly this episode, as one element that you should consider, not truth per se.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's my introduction to this conversation, because we're going to talk about currency. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about crypto in general. And those are very sensitive topics.
They are, especially in banking. Yeah.
Yeah. As to whether or not people should be involved in cryptocurrency, using it. Obviously, there are some scam-related things that go along with cryptocurrency right now, which are not good. Mm-hmm. You could argue there are a lot of scams that deal with regular currency as well.
Yeah, right.
So, and that doesn't stop people from using a $1 bill, right? So,
yeah, we covered that a couple episodes ago. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
So, I guess my thing is, take what we're saying. We're doing everything we can to make sure that what we're telling you is factual.
Yeah.
But what you do with the information is completely up to you.
Very well said.
All right.
Yeah.
So what started us down this road was an article that appeared in Forbes that I found and sent to Jeff, as typical, on a weekend.
Because, just what I want to do on the weekend.
Yeah, I know. This is really your cup of tea. And so I was reading through this article from Forbes, and the article is called "Bitcoin is Coming for the Housing Crisis." And it really kind of made me wonder why in the world they were using the term Bitcoin and housing in the same headline, because they didn't seem to marry with one another at all.
No.
And so at the risk of literally reading the article to you, which I don't want to do, the article talks about the Case-Shiller Index of home prices. And this was started in the 1980s because he saw Massachusetts home prices zooming up like never before. In 1980, Massachusetts had put a permanent hard cap on local property taxes. It said they could go up by no more than 2.5% per year, and inflation in 1980 was 14%, which we talk about inflation now. We've been like, oh my God, it was 4%. I mean, which is not good. I mean, don't get me wrong, my grocery bills are out of control, but not 14%.
No, definitely not.
And this meant that the local government lost out, right? Because money poured into property like never before. So the thought was, well, if you cap taxes at a low level, the housing goes up, right? So it was the home prices were generally flat according to this, from the late 1800s up until the late 1960s.
Okay.
Home pricing was fairly stable.
Okay.
Which probably accounts for a big reason why my grandfather could have a house in Geistown and 3 kids with a housewife and 1 income.
Yeah, and built it for like $8,000.
Right.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right. I think it actually wasn't the housing pricing going down a little bit during that time too.
it was.
Yeah.
It was trending slightly like
Yeah.
like it was becoming more affordable for
Right.
people to own a home, not less.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden, home prices go up by over 50% in the 1970s. And this is all in real terms, adjusted for inflation. And so what the article is saying basically is that by going off the gold standard, by taking our monetary system off the gold standard, right, it made the currency more volatile. In other words, it could become more or less valuable more easily because it wasn't based on gold anymore.
Right.
Right. So people turned to housing and real estate, gold, more tangible things because they held their value more.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So all of a sudden, housing, land, real estate became more valuable, not because the land intrinsically became more valuable or the house cost more, but because
holding on to their land a little bit.
they were holding on to, and they were they found value in it because they'd held its value. Like the land was going to be valuable no matter what the dollar did.
Yeah.
Right. And so the article basically says, there is an argument to be made that potentially things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, because they are finite, specific
21 million Bitcoin. That's the cap, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they expect to hit in the next 20 years or something like that.
I think that's what John said. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The idea that Bitcoin in particular is finite, that there's only so much of it, makes it akin to gold or silver, where there is a finite resource. It's not something that you can just make more of.
Right.
Right.
There's effort into getting that. There's effort into mining Bitcoin. There's effort into mining gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's effort into finding the mine to gold. Like, I mean, someday you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm gonna get my spade out and I'm gonna go dig me up some gold. Like
if you're in Alaska, that might be
maybe. Yeah, you've been there, so you would
actually. I did that one time. The first time I went to Alaska, my dad went. We did the whole like touristy gold panning thing, but we thought, okay, we're going to do this on our own. So we bought our own gold pan and went to a little stream out back of our hotel. It took us hours in a stream, but we got a fleck of gold. So.
Oh, nice. And it was real?
It was real, yeah.
That's nice, yeah. I remember my grandparents took a trip out west one time. They brought me back a bag of fool's gold.
Oh.
And
you thought you were rich, huh?
I did it for a minute there, and it's, what is it, pyrite?
Pyrite.
Yeah. So that's interesting, though. I've never been to Alaska. I'd love to go. I've heard it's fantastic. You've been there a couple times. Yeah, I think. So that was where this whole thing came from, was this article in Forbes saying, is Bitcoin going to return us to a type of currency that is based on something finite, something not so much tangible like gold or silver.
Not tangible at all.
Right. But something that is limited in resource.
Okay.
Right. And we as humans tend to find limited resources valuable because it's something I have that you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair. Right.
Right.
We want something that we can't have or that someone else has.
We definitely do. So I think that what we really want to talk about today, what we're going to focus on today, is the concept of fiat money, right? What is currency? Well, currency across the globe now is what is known as fiat currency. And fiat currency does not belong to Fiat, the automaker. Which
so my my $500 is not Fiat 500.
Is not no. Fiat currency is the term fiat is actually a Latin term, which means like I can't remember exactly what it said. It was fiat means
it shall be or let it be done.
Yeah. So it shall be, let it be done. In other words, fiat essentially means it's valuable because the government says it's valuable.
Okay, sure. I don't get that out of that, but that's yeah.
Well, it's I don't know why that term, but that's really what currency is. Currency today, whether it's the U.S. dollar, the British pound, which is now back in vogue because they exited the European Union.
Yeah.
I think they still take euros over there, but the euro, essentially any currency that you find issued by a government around the world today, none of it, not one bit of it, is based on anything tangible anymore.
Since
It's
the
all based
71, yeah.
Yeah, it's all based on fiat, or it's all based on government. My word for it that, hey, this is worth something.
And that's representative currency is what fiat currency is too. It represents you can trade it in for a specific commodity too.
Well, see, so through the Great Depression, you could have theoretically, Fort Knox, right?
Yeah.
So up until the Great Depression and then through I guess that'll be through World War I and almost up until World War II, you could have theoretically gone to the government and said, hey, listen, I have $5. I want $5 worth of gold.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they would have had to give you $5 worth of gold, right, as a direct exchange.
Mm-hmm.
In 1971, President Nixon nixed it.
Very good. Yeah.
I just thought of that. And said, no, we're going away from that. So, at this point, at the time, gold was worth like $35. An ounce of gold was worth like $35.
Wow, I would have taken that back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas
over $3,000, like $3,600.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great, and it does go up and down. I mean, the value of gold does go up and down. To be fair, but it's no longer able to do that, right? And people have been arguing the validity of fiat currency for a lot longer than 1971, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the question that I guess I have for you is, did you know that the currency that you have in your wallet is basically only backed by the U.S. government and nothing else?
I do now. No, before this, no. I mean, and yeah, I don't know why the government says it's a dollar bill is worth dollar bill, but why is my dollar bill in the U.S. worth something today compared to Japan's yen? Yesterday it was worth A, and now it's worth B today.
Oh, right. As far as like an exchange. Yeah, that goes into a lot of stuff that even I just don't quite get. I mean, I'm sure there's a calculation that goes into it to figure it out. It's probably based on the intrinsic value of what the Japanese government dictates that 1 yen is worth versus what the U.S. government says $1 is worth, and then they do some sort of calculation.
Yeah.
But U.S. currency in particular is cloth and paper, right? It's so why is that cloth and paper worth more than this cloth and paper, right? It's just and it's basically because the government says so.
Yeah.
So when people say things like, just getting back to the Bitcoin part of the Forbes article, when people say, well, why would you ever own cryptocurrency? It's not based on anything, right? I would argue, well, neither is the U.S. dollar.
Right. And the U.S. dollar is not finite, so that value could change. But I guess, Bitcoin value changes too, based on the supply and demand.
Well, the exchange rate changes if you really think about it.
Of Bitcoin.
Yeah, because everybody talks about Bitcoin in terms of what it's worth in U.S. dollars.
Right.
Right. But nobody talks about the Bitcoin. Nobody says like, oh, the U.S. dollar is now worth X because the Japanese yen is worth Y.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so that's true. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
So, Bitcoin is worth what it's worth in U.S. dollars in exchange.
Yeah.
But 1 Bitcoin is still 1 Bitcoin. Right.
Yeah.
So the problem is the exchange rate. The problem is that nobody's using cryptocurrency to buy a cup of coffee, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's too volatile, right? By the time that I go through the whole blockchain process and all that stuff, my cup of coffee changed value 85 times in 3 minutes.
Yeah, but wasn't that the whole reason why crypto came about was like as a standard? So everyone was on the same playing field. Like it didn't matter what currency you wanted to convert it to, crypto was like the same value.
I think that was a big part of it. It's a private currency now, right? So it's not issued by a government,
right?
So that was the appeal. It was decentralized and should be valuable to everybody equally, that kind of thing.
But it's not whenever you take it out of the blockchain, and convert it into whatever currency you're trying to buy a pizza with.
Yeah. So I guess that's going to be the thing, is that cryptocurrency of any kind, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin or any of the other 5,000 cryptocurrencies that are currently out there, they're not going to be worth anything intrinsically until people start using them for trade.
Yeah.
Right. And that's essentially what money is. Money is just a substitute for trade. Yeah. Instead of me saying, hey, I'm going to trade you my my car for your horse, right? And we just straight up do a trade. I give you my car, you give me your horse. Now there's this thing in the middle that says, well, I'm going to give you X number of dollars for your horse, and you're going to give that to me, and then you're going to give me X number of dollars for my car, and I'm going to give it to you. I guess it's a way to bypass that barter system, because now, somebody, if you're doing a horse car trade, well, then you're like, well, my horse is worth way more than that car, and the car.
Or I didn't even need a horse,
Right, I didn't need it at all, so it was worth nothing to me.
Right.
So the money actually, I think, helps to sort of grease the wheels in a way by giving people the ability to assign a value to something and then use that in trade, as opposed to the direct trade of the a commodity, right? Let's talk. You said you talked about the exchange rate. So let's talk a little bit about inflation and the exchange rate, and how fiat currency can get out of control through hyperinflation.
Yeah, we've seen that. Well, we haven't seen that necessarily. I guess we have seen a couple of them, but there have been some countries in the past that hyperinflation has ruined them, or is they're still currently trying to recover from.
Yeah, there are some even today that are having trouble with hyperinflation.
Zimbabwe was the one that's currently still trying to recover.
Still trying to recover from that. I think one of the biggest, most popular examples, or most common examples that people know is Germany, post World War I.
Yeah.
Do you know what the exchange rate was to a U.S. dollar? In 1923 in Germany?
Well, if you could take a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread in Germany, I'm going to say something like $1 was worth 100,000, whatever it.
Oh, they would have killed for 100,000.
Really? Okay,
killed.
Tell me.
4.2 trillion German marks.
Wow.
To $1.
Wow.
4.2 trillion.
So we could live like kings.
I mean,
we didn't win the Powerball the other day, but back in the day, we would have been kings.
But I mean, you're right though. People were taking wheelbarrows full of money to buy a loaf of bread. I mean, it was like 200,000 German marks for a loaf of bread.
Wow.
I'm sorry, that's not right. It was 200 billion.
Yeah.
It was 200 billion marks for a loaf of bread. People were wallpapering their houses with Deutschmarks, because it was actually cheaper than buying the wallpaper.
And burning it to stay warm because it was cheaper than buying firewood. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Hungary was another one, same time frame that was, I think, even worse than Germany.
Yeah, I think they did get to a point where the conversion rate would have been worse.
Yeah.
It
was all because they had to pay war reparations, and that is the value of their monetary system.
Yeah, I mean, it was so there's a whole thing that I can go into, but I won't.
Okay.
But post World War I, when all this happened in 1923, especially in Germany, when World War II broke out, after the war was over, there were discussions and treaties and stuff put in place that basically said that they limited some of those reparations and how they could be paid back, and how quickly they had to be paid back, and in what form they could be paid back, to avoid this problem again. Because you're right. After World War I, these countries were just ruined. And it wasn't necessarily the population of those countries that were the cause of the war, but they were definitely the ones that paid the price, quite literally.
Yeah, right.
You know? So why would you want something like fiat currency is the question. You know, if it's prone to hyperinflation and it's not based on anything tangible, why do we use it?
Well, it provides stability, right?
Yeah, it totally do. I mean, it does.
Allowing the government to kind of regulate how much is printed, when it needs to be printed, kind of it is used to try to regulate that inflation a little bit more.
Yeah, it's I think that for a lot of people it's hard to sort of put the two together, and even for me, like, you start thinking about, well, it's more stable because it's more flexible, which is weird.
Right.
But it gives governments the ability, when they see inflation starting to creep up, to either add to or take money from the system.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have this runaway inflation that can happen. The problem, the thing with runaway inflation is when people lose faith in the government's ability to back the money, right? And that's really what happened with the war reparations and things like that, because these are, you'll notice, none of this hyperinflation occurred in the winning countries, right?
Yeah.
This hyperinflation occurred in the losing countries for these wars. And the people lost faith in their government. The people lost faith that the money was worth anything. And so it just spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
So the advantage to fiat currency, and the reason why literally every government in the world uses fiat currency these days, is because of that ability to be flexible, to be able to say, hey, we're going to take some money out, we're going to add some money in, we're going to try to keep things regulated. And you can't do that if it's based on gold.
Because it's finite. You can't always mine gold, you can't always find gold. So you need to be able to regulate that by yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So, theoretically, whenever they were when it was based on the gold standard, right, they would either lock more gold up in Fort Knox to take money out of the system, right, or they would release gold, back into the, and it would but it was still a finite resource. There came a point where you couldn't release any more, because you didn't have it, right, and if you wanted to buy it back, the government had to buy it back from the people, right? Where now the government just says, the dollar's worth a little less today. Right?
Because you get to a point where, you don't have as much gold in Fort Knox, and everybody says, okay, well, I want to exchange my money for gold again. Then they have enough money or enough gold to give out. Yeah. Yeah.
So, not to mention the fact that, and we can get into this because I want to sort of bookend this conversation by talking about whether cryptocurrency is the next gold, or whether it's really different than what we currently use today. But there was a movement for a while. Like I said, this argument goes back a long way as to whether or not you should use fiat currency or not. There was an argument in the 1800s to add silver to the monetary system.
Okay.
So the idea was, rather than just being on the gold standard, where you would have I don't have enough gold, I can't release it, I can't buy it, I can't, whatever, it's too finite. As we all know, silver is, generally speaking, cheaper than gold. It's easier to find, but it's still a precious metal. It's still something that's not something you can just, generally speaking, go into your backyard and grab, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's easier to find than silver, or it's easier to find than gold. So there was an argument made, and I'm not going to bore you with the history, because I know how much you just love it when I go into history. But there was a congressman, and you can look him up. His name was William Jennings Bryan, and in the late 1800s, I'm going to 1890. He delivered what is famously known as the Cross of Gold speech, which was the idea that the richest people in our country at the time, the Andrew Carnegies and all those people, had too much access to the gold, and the poorer people, the farmers and so forth, had almost no access to the gold. And so, he was sort of blaming the gold standard for the disparity between the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor. And if that doesn't sound familiar to you,
yeah, we might be going through something like that now.
Right? People think all this stuff has never come around before.
Comes full circle.
Yeah, it's just it's all been done before.
It gives the people that are a little less well off the ability to kind of make up the difference with the silver.
Yeah. So his argument was, to not be strictly on the gold standard, but to add silver to the monetary system as a supplement.
Okay.
And there are people out there that argue, and you can argue whether you can argue whether this was real or not, whether it was intentional or not, put it that way. But there are people that argue that the Wizard of Oz was a political allegory for this concept.
Okay.
Because follow me now.
Okay. All right. I'll have to remember, this is one of my wife's favorite movies.
Okay. So in the book,
okay,
Dorothy's slippers were not ruby. In the book, Dorothy's slippers were silver. And in the book, basically, as everybody knows the story, right? The Kansas farmer girl, right, gets taken off into this wonderland where there is a golden road to an emerald city. In other words, all the money's in the cities,
yeah,
and
right.
That's the golden road that gets you there, right? And
but she got there with her silver slippers,
right? So she was given silver slippers, right, to get to her destination.
Okay.
And so that was the sort of the argument was that, he was trying to talk about, how the farmers need the silver and all this kind of stuff.
Could be. I could see that.
It's possible. It's also possible that it was just a bedtime story he read to his daughter, right? He wrote for his daughter. Yeah. But it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Right.
Is, yeah.
And then, when they made the movie, they changed him to Ruby because, Technicolor.
Got to make it look better.
Yeah. So,
speaking of money, those slippers just sold for what? Like millions of dollars? Like a few months ago or something? The original ones were found again. I guess they were lost for years, and then they were found and
oh, really?
Yeah, they're just auctioned off recently.
Oh, that's cool. I knew
$1 million or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew that I knew there were 2 or 3 pairs because every movie has 2 or 3 of everything.
Right.
But I didn't know that the originals were finally found. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not to divert too much, but did you see Darth Vader's lightsaber? What it went for?
No.
Yeah, they somebody released. They had it in a private collection. They had the original handle that was Darth Vader's lightsaber in all 3 of the original movies, I guess. And it sold for I think $3.2 million or something.
I can believe it. I know. Yeah, anything Star Wars original goes for big bucks. Yeah,
and I mean it's a Kodak flash handle, for goodness sake, or flash. But
it doesn't matter.
But it's just that iconic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just amazing.
Oh yeah.
And again, it kind of goes back to to this conversation about currency. Like, what's it worth to you?
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, to some people,
it's worth nothing to me. I don't like Star Wars.
Yeah, right. To you, it's worth a Kodak flash handle, right? To other people, it's worth $3.2 million.
Yes, yeah.
So we sort of discussed. I think we've touched on the positives and negatives of fiat currency and why it exists the way that it does. Mm-hmm. I guess the next question that you and I can sort of tackle, and then everybody can comment and tell us that we're wrong.
Yeah.
Or better yet, we're just going to fix the world's economy and everything's going to be great.
It'd be awesome. Yeah.
Where we are, is whether there's really a difference then between fiat currency and crypto.
Yeah.
Right. Because one of the things we've discussed with John Valcosi, some of the stuff that I've talked about when I've tried to coach people on Bitcoin and what it is, and trust me, I think you would agree,
very complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still know a fraction of what I need to know to be good at using it.
I mean, despite how much we've learned, I still feel like I'm a novice in truly understanding how this works. But basically, I think what it comes down to is, and what the original article from Forbes was saying was, if fiat currency is based on nothing but the government's word that it's worth something, And cryptocurrency, specifically in this case Bitcoin, is also only worth something because someone else tells you that it's worth something, or the people who value it think that it's worth something.
Well,
right?
That's the supply and demand is what makes it worth something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And is Bitcoin or cryptocurrency more like fiat currency, or is it more like gold in that it's finite? And if it is more like gold, would it actually be the thing that everybody's been at, that I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people are asking major governments to go back to something that is commodity based, to go back to a currency that is not fiat currency, because they feel that it is more stable. It's built on something tangible, built on something valuable, right?
Right.
It's built on something finite. Bitcoin, outside of the tangible part of it, Bitcoin is essentially that. It is built on something finite.
It is, yeah. But the government's not controlling it either.
No, and some people would say that that's a good thing because it's not any one government controlling it. It's a private currency that's available to everybody.
Yeah. That's different than our government in Fort Knox. You know, our government doesn't have a stash. I mean, but I guess, yeah, John had mentioned that they would have to have some sort of Bitcoin stash then.
I think there was some discussion with the current administration in Washington that they wanted to build a Bitcoin reserve, or crypto reserve of some sort. I don't know how far along that is. I'd have to do. He knew a lot more about the timing of that, but I think it was supposed to be sometime.
It was a summer, yeah,
in 2025, sometime this year, that was supposed to happen. Whether it did or whether it will, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I guess it's really an opinion at this point, because there's no right answer or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's really just what you think crypto is going to become. Is it going to become another currency that's based on someone's word for it, or is it going to become a currency that becomes valuable because at some point it's going to run out, and the only way to get it is going to be to trade it with someone else who already has it, which means that it goes back to what you said. I only want it because someone else has it, or I can't get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but the one big selling point for gold is it is tangible. It's used for other things. It's used for jewelry. It's used for electronics.
Ah, that's a good point.
If the power grid goes down, you lost your Bitcoin. You didn't lose your gold.
Yeah.
I mean, people still hoard gold, and you know, for that apocalypse, you know, they figure, hey, I'm going to have to barter something. Gold's a good way to do that.
That's a really good point. That they did not make in any of these articles, but you make a very excellent point. If the lack of it being tangible could really play into this, you know, whereas yes, it's finite. Okay, great, but if we have some sort of if there's an electromagnetic storm from the sun that knocks our electrical grids out for the next 5 years, Bitcoin
is worthless.
Yeah, right. Because you can't trade it.
You can have a physical wallet with Bitcoin on it, but you're not gonna be able to do anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's only worth something if you can trade it for something else, right? And you know, you and I briefly kind of touched on that earlier today too. This concept that some people have where they just hoard money, right? And we'll say money in terms of like any money. I'm not saying necessarily
anything
U.S. dollars. Like they'll hoard anything of value,
right.
Yeah. But whether you are hoarding euros or U.S. dollars or whatever, you know, there are people that have lost the concept that the money is for trade. They will live in a tiny apartment, refuse to turn the heat on, not buy any food, or live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or something, and they got $3 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Right. And they say like, well, I'm a millionaire. Okay, well, what good is it doing you? Right?
There's a balance. We tell you to save, but you also have to spend. Yeah. I mean,
there comes a point where saving becomes worthless, because if you never spend it, right, then what's it for? Right. You might as well not have it.
Right. You can't take it with you, you know.
Yeah. So you make a good point. Like, you're right. We absolutely advocate that you save, you know, before you overspend. Right. You know, it's usually better. Well, I shouldn't say usually better. It's almost always better to have the discipline to save up for something rather than buy it on credit and then pay it back later.
Within your means, right?
And live within your means and all that. But at the same time, money is a means to an end. It's not valuable in and of itself.
Right.
So being a millionaire but living as though you have no money, and making your children wear sackcloth or something like that, that's the other extreme.
Yeah.
It's not worth having the money. Then you might as well not have it at all, because in and of itself, it's not worth anything, right?
True.
So I don't know. I think this is a concept that that most people don't think about.
No, and this is another concept that's going to be evolving as Bitcoin and crypto becomes more popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any? I should have, but do you have any crypto?
I do.
Do you have a little bit? Yeah, I certainly don't have a lot.
Yeah, no. And if you, a lot of it is just fractional. Like Bitcoin. I could never afford a Bitcoin.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like Bitcoin in a weird way was my Yahoo moment.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of people that 30 years ago would have said, "Oh my gosh, if I would have only known that Yahoo was going to be as valuable as it was."
Yeah.
It's less valuable now than it was then. But I would have bought Yahoo stock or Amazon. Amazon's another one.
Yeah. Right.
If I would have only known in 1993 how valuable Amazon would be, I would have bought their stock at $5 a share or whatever and been a millionaire today.
Right.
I do vaguely remember in 2010, 2012, something like that, reading about Bitcoin and thinking to myself, oh man, I should mine 2 or 3 of those, because at the time you could mine them on a personal computer.
Oh, they used to sell gimmicks. Like you could get a flash drive that was a mining rig on a flash drive.
Yeah.
And it would take you, years to get a Bitcoin, even back then when it was worth, a fraction of what it is today. But yeah.
And if I would have done that, though, I could probably retire today if I had 10 or 12 Bitcoin worth $100,000 a piece, you get $1 million. I mean, that's so
it's more of a hobby for me, I guess. To see what you can do with a couple bucks.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like the lottery.
Yeah, and I saw a joke yesterday or the day before. How do you get $1,000 in Bitcoin or in crypto? You invest $2,000.
Yeah.
I mean,
nice.
It's too volatile to put a lot of money in, for me at least.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't necessarily advocate it as a monetary system at this point, which is kind of what they're saying is like, would crypto become the new monetary system? But do I have a fraction of Bitcoin just in case I'm lucky enough that it goes to $1 billion? Yeah, right. I do. I do.
Now they do have USD coins too, so there's hope that and it's worth one coin's worth $1. So I mean, there are some stable coins that could be the future of our currency system.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that the governments around the world would love nothing more than for all monetary systems to become digital.
Yeah.
Not necessarily crypto per se.
Yeah.
But digital.
Hard to track, right?
Because once it's digital, you can track anything. You can track every transaction and you can tax the heck out of it. So I'm sure that would be a dream for a lot of governments to avoid the ability for people to do direct barter. Although you'd probably see a lot of people going back to direct barter then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll give you my house for my horse for your car. That kind of stuff.
People are going to find ways around, having the government looking over their shoulder, I guess. Yeah.
Most likely, I would think. It kind of reminds me in an odd way of what a lot of states are now doing with their turnpike systems, like going to these high-speed interchanges where you don't have a toll booth or anything. But I've also read that some of these states are then able to essentially calculate whether or not they should send you a speeding ticket or not.
Ah.
Because if you get on at toll booth A and you get off at toll booth B
a certain amount of time, and it should have taken you longer.
Right.
That's smart.
Yeah. So, they go, okay, well, those are 60 miles apart and you got there in 25 minutes. Yeah, so that they're sneaky.
Yeah.
They're sneaky the way they get you.
I wouldn't have thought it. Yeah.
Not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or nothing, but like, you got to think
we're going to charge you more for the tolls, and we're going to charge you for the speeding ticket. Yep.
That's the thing. It's like, well, there's no legitimate way that you could argue that you weren't speeding if you made it there in such an amount of time. Now, there are some people that say, well, okay, well, I can still speed if I stop at a rest stop and I get myself some gas and I stop and eat like some pizza or something. But you're not making any time up. There's no point. So you kind of have to obey the law, which we would advocate you do anyway. But
that would cut down on having police on those highways too.
I'm sure
allocate that money for police officers to a different area of the government.
Yeah. So there's the minute you put stuff like that digitally, where you can get all of the data, you suddenly
you lose your privacy.
Yeah, you lose a lot of that, and and it's always sort of sold to you as look how convenient this is, right? It's so much easier. You don't have to slow down to 15 miles an hour to pass through that toll booth or anything. Yeah, okay, but. Now you can track my every move while from the minute I get on to the minute I get off of that highway, and the monetary system's no different. If every transaction becomes digital, there's really no way for you to have a private transaction.
Yep. It increases in fraud too, and
Yeah, you can go into the whole fraud thing too. For sure. That's definitely something that as we anytime we talk about crypto. You really have to be aware of the scams and the fraud and a lot of that I think comes from the lack of understanding about how it works, and that's why we're here. We're not here just talking about financial literacy because it's I don't know. I understand there are more entertaining podcasts out there that talk to celebrities and things like that, which we rarely get to do. And
hopefully you take away something that could help you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really what that's why we're here. We're trying to make this stuff a little more accessible, a little more understandable, so that hopefully you're a little more well equipped to understand what's happening to you or to your family or to your friends, so you're not taken advantage of, so that you're not taken in by a scam or something. It's crazy. And the more I'm a big fan of the whole knowledge is power thing. The more you understand about how your government works, how your money works, the more well equipped you are to hopefully benefit from that knowledge.
Oh yeah.
I grew up an 80s kid, G.I. Joe, the more, and knowing is half the battle, right? It's so anyway, I think this has been a good conversation, Dan.
It has.
Yeah.
I learned a lot even just doing this research. So it's helped me.
Yeah. It's helped me too, to be honest. Anything I missed or that we skipped over that I can, before we go?
So.
Okay.
I think that was enough information for one podcast.
Yeah.
If we need to make another one, we'll make another one.
Everybody gets to listen to this a second time to try to grab it in their brain.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, hey.
Have a good one, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
This podcast focuses on having valuable conversations on various topics related to banking and financial health. The podcast is grounded in having open conversations with professionals and experts with the goal of helping to take some of the mystery out of financial and related topics, as learning about financial products and services can help you make more informed financial decisions. Please keep in mind that the information contained within this podcast and any resources available for download from our website or other resources relating to Bank Chats is not intended and should not be understood or interpreted to be financial advice. The hosts, guests, and production staff of Bank Chats expressly recommend that you seek advice from a trusted financial professional before making financial decisions. The hosts of Bank Chats are not attorneys, accountants, or financial advisors, and the program is simply intended as one source of information. The podcast is not a substitute for a financial professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation.
I think it's fascinating to look at money from such an objective perspective as what we've done today. Typically, even on this podcast, we focus on how to save, spend, or earn money, but not really on what its function is in society. As we mentioned earlier, money really is simply a means to an end. It makes trade easier, but inherently has little actual value. The cost of printing a $1 bill, for example, currently sits at about 7.5 cents. The value is not in the paper, but in what the paper represents. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, please know that we find value in your likes and shares. It really helps the podcast to reach more listeners and viewers, so a quick thumbs up from you goes a long way. Amerisur Presents Bank Chats is produced and distributed by Amerisur Financial Incorporated. Music by Schneckmind. Our executive producer is Jeffrey McTavish. Remember, we have 2 new episodes every month and lots of great ideas for new content, so be sure to subscribe. For now, I'm Drew Thomas. So long.